So, James and Rita, this is extraordinary. We now hear that the killer, the shooter, the alleged shooter, was in a relationship. His lover was a transgender individual transitioning from male to female. That's the latest news. And this was the same individual that texts were sent to his so-called roommate regarding the rifle and casings. Rita Panahi.
Yes, Tyler Robinson's partner is cooperating with the FBI. He's been helpful, is what's been reported. And, yeah, he is trans. It's just another development. It adds an extra layer to what could have motivated this guy. But this guy, if he is the culprit, and authorities are very confident they have their man, he's told us why he's done this. There's a lot of conjecture. The left is bending over backwards, trying to cast some doubt about whether this was a politically motivated assassination, when there is zero doubt, because the killer told us why he did it. He hasn't been shy about saying why he did it. And if we don't accept reality, if we don't face up to the truth, we're not going to get past this point. And worse than trying to cast doubt about what motivated this killing are those dishonest actors. Sometimes they're just dishonest, sometimes they're stupid. I really don't care which one's which, but they lied. They have fabricated pictures of the suspect in a Trump shirt. They've tried to cast him as some sort of MAGA individual, Republican, just because his family happened to be church-going religious conservatives. This guy is the black sheep of the family. The family have said, you know, he's been off the left. And I think it just shows, James, that just growing up in a conservative religious family doesn't necessarily immunise you or protect you from this poisonous doctrine.
And I mean, look, Rita, everybody out there, everybody on the stage, we know families are complicated. You have different people come from the same parents, the same environment, and just different things sort of wind up happening to them over the course of life. And that is just life. But the gaslighting, the unbelievable gaslighting that we have had, and I see this coming from all quarters of the left. It's not just the ones who are celebrating gleefully his death. And I'm going to be talking a bit later in the program about people who've been losing their jobs as a result of this, and why that's actually not a bad thing. But this idea that, oh, well, and you see these posts, I see them all the time. He was a conservative. He was brought up a Mormon. He grew up in Utah. His parents were cops. This, that, the other thing. You know, to suggest that, well, every single one of these things says, except that, you know, even The Guardian. So when you read it in The Guardian, and they're telling the truth about it, you know this is the truth. They said, they talked to people who were friends of the family. They said he was incredibly radicalized. They said that a few years ago he really started to, and I think, well, you know, we need to talk about universities and just what's happening on our university campuses right now, that people get so radicalized on them. But that he talked about Charlie Kirk, he talked about the right, he talked about fascism, he talked about trans stuff. Now we know why there's an angle on the transgender side there, because, of course, if he's had this relationship. But it is anything, they will do anything they can to prevent themselves owning the fact. And I'll tell you, we got to be careful, because I'm not somebody who subscribes to the words equals violence thing. That's the left thing. But these are the same people who have been pumping everybody through this message that Donald Trump is a fascist. People like Charlie Kirk are fascists. They are an imminent threat to democracy, the democratic way of life, the American republic, freedom, liberty, all of these things.
Well, when you say...
And when they do that, that creates the existential threat, that creates a circumstance where this happens.
I don't think we have to be shy about saying that at all. There's clear incitement for this crime. Yeah. There's clear incitement for the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. There's clear incitement when you say words of violence, you rationalise responding with violence. When you call someone a fascist, when you call someone hateful, when you falsely malign them as all sorts of things and assign to them all sorts of beliefs they don't even have, then you are giving some deranged individual a licence to do exactly what happened. Now, Charlie Kirk, he's been painted as this, radical, hard right figure. His opinions are so mainstream in the conservative movement, mainstream in the community. He is not some radical firebrand. And I've heard quite a few quotes of his, again, weaponised to try to justify the way the left is reacting to this, the ugliness, just the callousness of which the way so many are responding. Things like, there's a quote going around, you know, I don't like empathy, but people have thrown that around. I hate the word empathy. If you look at the whole quote, he's talking about, he prefers the word sympathy. Yes. Because empathy denotes that you feel what someone else is feeling. So you see someone who's hurt and you're also hurting, while sympathy is a far more genuine... So it was a semantic argument that has now been
weaponized.
This is what they do all the time. They take things out of context. But Rita, your point about you know, the transgender, the incitement and so on, what was fascinating and tragic about the death is that Charlie Kirk never condemned anybody for being transgender. He never attacked anybody. He never questioned that choice, other than to say maybe there's an alternative, and maybe through debate and discussion with other people, with experts, you might find a way to actually arrive at being comfortable in your own body. Now, what is fascinating is that his slogan, "Prove me wrong," the only way this alleged killer could prove him wrong, the alleged killer in a relationship with a man transitioning to a woman, the only way he could prove him wrong was to shoot him. Well, and that just is so tragic, but so it shows you the depth of depravity of the ideology, which you mentioned. I'll be talking about it later in the show. The university left wing, these factories of toxic poison, they may well be at the root of the problem here as well, because a young kid who seemed a shy but perfectly nice kid goes off to college, and suddenly,
but hang on, we need to talk about another point.
We have a killer. We have a killer.
We need to talk about another point here too, because one of the most toxic, most evil lines that we keep hearing too. You know, you want to talk about things where they take something he said out of context.
Yes.
Right. The number one thing that they've been taking out of context is this whole idea that, you know, Charlie Kirk supported the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms, and said that you have the Second Amendment, there will be some deaths because of that, but it is worth it to preserve liberty. And he had a much bigger explanation around that, and including saying things like, you know, I think he made the argument that, well, we could ban all cars tomorrow, but we have the right to drive, and you would have no road toll, but there you are.